At least 7 people died, including 3 who were on board the plane. At least 11 people were also injured. Now, the plane's fuel tanks were likely full as it was departing for Honolulu from Louisville's Muhammad Ali International Airport. Well, Tom Hansen is there with more. Good morning, Tom. What do we know about what happened?
Hey there, Errol. Well, this crash happened just after 5 p.m. yesterday. I want to take a look over my shoulder. If you can make it out in the horizon over there, you can still see plumes of smoke from this crash site, which is a testament to just how much fuel was on this plane. Now, we are learning from the mayor that the shelter-in-place radius has been reduced down to a quarter mile around the crash site, but this tragedy unfolding less than 10 miles from downtown Louisville. Horrifying footage shows the moment UPS Flight 2976 en route to Honolulu, Hawaii, takes off Tuesday. Its left wing engulfed in flames. Seconds later, the cargo plane comes crashing down, erupting into a massive ball of fire. Officials say there were 3 crew members on board. A second video taken from a nearby vehicle shows the explosion setting multiple buildings on fire. And this dashcam video, taken near several businesses, shows the plane tilted on its left side, skidding across the ground, a fiery trail following behind.
There was an accident on departure.
The sheer scale of the devastation was immense as firefighters worked to contain the fast-growing inferno, which ripped through an industrial area south of the airport and grew to the size of a city block.
This is an all-hands-on-deck response.
Kentucky's governor later confirmed the plane was full of about 38,000 gallons of fuel and smashed into at least 2 businesses, a waste management company and an auto parts store. At least 2 people are unaccounted for, and it's unclear how many were inside the buildings.
There was no specifically hazardous cargo on board of the plane that would create an environmental issue for those around the site, but the impact and where it impacted could create those types of situations.
The National Transportation Safety Board will lead the investigation into the cause of the crash.
This is extremely rare. You don't see these type of things hardly ever.
CBS News aviation expert Captain Laura Einsettler.
The question will be for the investigators, what type of maintenance was being done on that left engine beforehand, in the hours beforehand, what type of maintenance history there was.
Now, the UPS facility here is called WorldPort. UPS is the largest employer in the Louisville metro area with more than 20,000 workers. They issued a statement. I want to read you in part what they said. They are working with state and local authorities on response efforts. They also halted package sorting operations here last night, Errol.
All right, just stunning to see that footage. Tom, thank you very much. We are now joined by Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg. Good morning, Mayor Greenberg. Help us understand the present danger to people.
All right. Hello, Debbie. I had a problem with my microphone. Not the whole time I've been sitting here. Debbie, can you hear me? All right. So all these experts are saying the plane could have flew with 2 engines, and that is true. If the tail motor would have been the motor that they lost, then yes, the plane would have been able to take off and land safely. But being that it was a wing motor, they were doomed. And especially, they might have been able to do it with just the tail motor and the one wing motor, and they would have to tether them motors to push, the plane where they wanted it to go. But I think that they were doomed when it was a wing motor that went out, because it was just too much stress, I believe, on the controls to try and keep it straight and not veering off to the left. So, yes, some of them are telling the truth. It could have flown safely on 2 motors if they had both wing motors, but they didn't. So it's not going to fly. I mean, it might fly for I don't know how long, but my guess, they probably still would have went down, even if they had, the tail motor working. Like I said, they would have to tether them 2 motors simultaneously to keep the plane going straight. They would have to pull back the power on the right wing and give full force to the center motor to maybe hopefully push it one way, but I don't think so. I think they were pretty much screwed. Condolences to the families, but let's listen to a little bit more of this. It's just horrible. Could it have been prevented? Well, sure, they could have bailed out on the takeoff. A lot of these professionals are saying, well, it would have been ugly. They would have had, well, I don't know. I've seen planes abort and survive. So I don't know. That's, but here's the main thing. Your whole people that are professionals are not professionals at all, folks. They know, if they know anything about science and stopping abilities, they're like, well, they were doing 100 and something miles an hour. If they would have tried to abort it at that kind of high speeds, they would have went off the runway and crashed, and it could have been, it could have been, should have been. But if you know anything about flight, weight, and momentum, and forward momentum, then you would know that your landing strips and takeoff strips are way too short. Right? They want to throw it, we're professional. Yeah. Well, then you should have known. Science. Einstein stuff. Common sense. You need more runway just for an emergency to abort. Well, who am I? I'm just a retarded idiot. No, let's continue. But these are scientists. These are guys that tell me I got a degree in idiotism.
Living near this airport right now, and let us know when the shelter in place, which we understand has been reduced, when that might be lifted.
Well, thank you and good morning. It's a tough morning here in Louisville. Appreciate you having me on. So yeah, we've been monitoring the air quality overnight, and we've reduced the shelter in place to just a quarter mile around the crash site right now. There's no danger to anyone else outside of that. We hope to continue to reducing that area as the fire that you just saw continues to be extinguished, and as we get readings that the air quality is reduced. We do expect, unfortunately, the number of victims to grow. As you just heard, the governor and I just had a briefing with emergency officials just a bit ago, and we do expect that number to grow. Last night, I was at the Family Reunification Center, and there are more families than that that are still looking for loved ones right now.
And our hearts go out to them. You can just imagine the shock of seeing that footage in their hometown and then heading down to see where their loved ones are. Tell us about meeting some relatives of victims. What are they thinking and feeling at a moment like this?
Yeah, this is one of the incredibly difficult things during these times of tragedy is meeting individuals who are looking for information, are fearing the worst. And so all you can do is hug them, provide them with the support and love that I know the entire city is sending to all of the victims' family at this time, and give them as much information that you have at the moment. Tell them about the process and let them know how quickly we're working to get them the information now that it's getting light here in Louisville. The coroner and other first responders will be back out on the scene searching for victims. The NTSB is arriving in town shortly. I'll be greeting them when they arrive, that they begin their investigation. We had over 200 first responders on the scene last night. You can see how big that debris area is and where this crash took place. Very large tragedy.
Yeah, Mayor, I'm still just shocked at the footage showing the debris.
All right, can you guys hear me all right? Yeah. Well, look at that. It ripped open that building. That wing was like a can opener. And you would think that the wing would have gave away, because the wing is just aluminum, folks. That's all it is aluminum ribs inside of it and wrapped with aluminum. It's a flying piece of tinfoil. Very high strength, but still, You would think that that solid building there probably would have tore the wing off or whatever, but it didn't. It just opened that up like a can of worms, and it kept flying another 100 feet, 200 feet, and then crashed. So here's the bottom line. Your runways are way too short. We tried to tell tell these people a long time ago, you're bound for crashes, right? You just ain't got enough room, especially when you're loaded down these big giant jets. You ain't got enough room, and your airports and everything are smack dab in the middle of society. So, people, oh, why ain't you set? Well, we told these idiots. They're the professionals. They went to college 10 years. And you try and tell them something. Oh, we don't have to listen to you. You got a degree? No, it's called common sense, right? I did go to school. Didn't learn much, but I did learn science and gravity and momentum and the weight. And what takes off got to come down. And if you got an abort, you got to have room to abort. Probably would have saved, I don't know how many people, millions of people's lives by now. But they don't listen. You pay them tax money. They're the ones killing your families and killing you're locking your kids up for stupid, idiotic stuff. You're going to blame it on the taxpayer. Well, you taxpayers ain't paying us enough to extend our runway another 1,000 feet. It ain't my problem. You'll be hearing from the lawyers. You better have deep pockets, because they're probably going to shut UPS down. This has happened numerous times. They don't know shit about what they're doing.
Field stretching all the way into this warehouse we're looking at now. Why do you expect the number of victims to increase?
That plane
And
can't fly
as far as the investigation,
wing
what
motor.
resources are available for relatives of folks who've been killed?
So the reason I expect the number to increase is because there were more families than the numbers that you mentioned in that report that are still looking for missing individuals that they believe were in or around that area last night. Don't want to draw any conclusions yet, but that is what we expect as they continue the search. We opened it up at our LMP, one of our Louisville Police Department training facilities. We opened up as the reunification center. LMPD was there taking information from the families. The Red Cross was there. Our coroner was there. Other first responders were there as well to get as much information and to provide whatever support we could as we wait for information from the field.
Yeah, well, Mayor, we share our condolences and wish you and the community there all the best in getting answers to what happened. Thanks for joining us today.
It's just idiotism. That's all it is. They don't give two craps about people's lives. It's about the money. All about the dinero. So could the plane fly on two engines like these guys are saying? Yes. If they didn't lose the left engine, then yes, the plane would have stayed up flying. If they would have lost the tail motor, no biggie. It would have been able to continue to fly, but not without a wing motor. There just ain't no way. It'll stay up, but it ain't going to stay up long. And then if you got a load on there and it shifts, You're done. And I wouldn't doubt it if they had a massive catastrophe with the instrumentation controls. That much pressure trying to feather that motor and keep that thing from hooking to the left and diving into the ground probably was too much on the controls. It might have broke one of the jack screws that control the back ailerons or whatever, or one of the ailerons, and it snapped. We're seeing a lot of that in these accidents. What do I think would have happened if it would have ran off of the runway? Well, I think there would have been a lot less damage than what we're seeing. These idiots make flying dangerous. Why? Because they don't want to spend the money to give a jet airliner double the room it needs if it needs to abort a takeoff. When a plane comes in, it's doing 150 miles an hour, same as it was when they said it was taking off. It was about 187 miles. Well, what do you think it does when it comes in for a landing? It's going that fast. It stops on the runway, don't it? Exactly. Why? Because it has room. And sometimes it don't even have enough room to do that. So instead of making it a government law for the government to step in and say, either we're going to shut your airport down or you're going to extend your runway double what it needs to be. So we have insurance that if we're at 200 miles an hour running down the road and we abort, we can't lift off, something happens, blows a motor, a tire, that you got enough room to stop safely. Which I can't. We're going to bring us all up against government, everything. They just can't do their jobs. I'm an idiot. Got half a brain. God dang common sense. Common sense. Well, we're going to start charging the United States government and these airports to fly their stuff. We're charging you. You give us $250 to get on that plane. I don't fly anyways. I flew a couple of times, and that was enough for me. I don't push life too much. You survive something like that, flying, it's bound to happen. It's just nothing is 100%.
The bike dealer you trust these bikes.
If you're looking for a lighter bike that's easier to maneuver than the Breeze.
Right on cue, just past the top of the hour, NTSB stepping up to talk about this deadly plane crash in Louisville, Kentucky. Let's listen into it live now.
Louisville, Kentucky, early this morning. Now we're just beginning our investigation into an airplane crash that occurred at 5:15 last night at the Louisville airport. The NTSB is an independent federal agency that is tasked by Congress to investigate every civil aviation accident that occurs in the United States, along with significant railroad, pipeline, rail, and highway events. We also issue safety recommendations aimed at preventing future losses. Now, before I go any further, on behalf of the entire NTSB, I want to just express our sincere condolences to those who were not only affected by losing family members in this accident, but those that were also injured and those that are still missing. It is a tough day for Louisville, for Kentucky. It's a tough day as being a Kentuckian myself. And I know what a great community this is, how impactful those people that suffered and have died are, and we've seen it all day. We know it is tearing at the community, and we're deeply sorry. And we are here to try to find out not only what happened, but why it happened, and more importantly, how do we prevent it from happening again? So here's some factual information we have at this time, and I'm going to read a few.
You know what they've been teaching their pilots? When they're in V mode, running down the runway, once they pass V mode, they're telling the pilots, they're training the pilots that way, that you are fully committed, whether you lost an engine, a tire, something dramatic happens, to stay fully committed to try and get that plane off of the ground. And they're teaching these pilots wrong. If you have any inkling that you're not going to be able to make a takeoff, your altitude's not climbing, or you got a motor that's exploded as you're running down the thing, you abort. But they are actually training these pilots. That's flight school. Once you pass V mark on that runway, you're fully 100% committed, whether you know you're going to die or not. That's what they're teaching them. And I say it's the wrong thing. Now, you've been watching the Johnny Kramer Music Movie Channel, and boy, what kind of entertainment we've been getting lately just from the news. Now, I'm not trying to spook people. People are going to fly no matter what I say. I don't control the world. All we can do as citizens are try and help, give advice. They should have lengthened the runways long time ago. They know that, but they didn't. I don't know what to tell these people. We got a problem. Could they have aborted? Well, they could have aborted, but the runway was just way too short. Not one of them came up and said, we're going to extend it another 1,000, 2,000 feet. Plenty of room to shut down if we have to, even at 300-400 miles an hour. Give them enough room. Probably would have saved a lot of lives, but, when you're dealing with the money and these big, they'll kill me. They've already killed me 50 times. I'm just somebody that practiced their evil on stuff. Even God could come down and tell them, what comes up comes down. And once you're rolling at 100 and something miles an hour, and you got 50, 60,000 tons or whatever it is, a plane running, it's going to take a lot longer to stop. And these people are like, well, they're just casualties. So you can save them, but you choose, well, it cost us millions to extend it. Yeah, well, that's about what it's going to cost you. Probably double in that, maybe tenfold in lawsuits. Once again, my condolences to the families. And you also have to take in consideration gravity is changing. The weather is changing. They're not going to tell you. These guys ain't going to tell you. Everything's changing, folks. So now it's harder to fly. You need more power. You need more clean air. You need more fuel, right? I'm not going to, that's as far as I'm going. I'm not revealing the Lord's secrets anymore to the common sense. This is all common sense, but it's obvious these scientists and aviating engineers or whatever, they just don't understand. So the plane was capable of flying, I agree, on two motors, if and only if they would have lost the tail motor. You lose a wing motor, it's over with, especially if you only got one motor. And you got to land, and you got to land fast. If not, do you think you're going to fly from Kentucky to Hawaii on one motor? You're asking for trouble. Idiots. Like, it's no biggie. We gave them the okay to take off, but they had fire extinguisher. Yeah, they just lost a wing motor. Nah, no problem. They'll put the fire out. Yeah, but the motor's on the runway. They're not going to be able to tether nothing. It's over with. They knew it. I wouldn't doubt it. I want to hear the tapes. Control tower communicating with this jet. I could tell you already what I probably heard once they figured the motor was gone. They got no tethering. They could have used all ailerons they wanted. And nothing. They had no power to straighten it out. There was nothing they could do. They knew it. They knew it. We're going to hear on there probably, oh my God. But they're trained. Once you pass V mark, you're 100% committed. You got to get the plane off of the ground or shut her down, and you're going to run off of the runway, and you might take a chance of damage, but not as much damage as we're seeing. I don't know where these people come up with their figures, their numbers, but it's obvious they're using the old slide of magic. That's why I'm always broke and they're always rich.
Few notes to make sure we have it exact. The airplane involved was a McDonnell Douglas II, which was then altered to be an MD-11F. The F stands for freighter. It is now handled by the Boeing Corporation. So whenever you hear that Boeing is a party, it is because of the merger with McDonnell Douglas many years ago. The plane was manufactured in 1991 with the tail number of November 259 UP. The plane was traveling from Louisville, Kentucky to Honolulu, Hawaii. There were 3 souls on board the plane. After being cleared for takeoff, a large plume of fire in the area of the left wing occurred during the takeoff roll. The plane lifted off and gained enough altitude to clear the fence at the end of runway 17R. Shortly after clearing that fence, it made impact with structures and the terrain off of the airport property. A post-impact fire ensued, which covers approximately almost a half of a mile. And we have viewed airport CCTV security coverage, which shows the left engine detaching from the wing during the takeoff roll.
And they kept going.
This and other videos, along with evidence we are finding, are a very valuable asset to our investigators in helping us hone.
They kept rolling, trying to catch me rolling dirty. Are you effing kidding me? They were in roll pattern. They weren't even at V mark yet, and they kept going. Unreal. All I can say is thank you, Jesus, that this was not a commercial jetliner full of 250, 400 people, whatever they carry. Thank you, Jesus, that this plane was, my condolences, and I'm sorry, Lord, for the loss of the 3 pilots and the other people on the ground. But we can also thank you, Lord, that this was not a commercial jetliner and there wasn't any children or anything like that on it. All glory goes to God for that. But this guy's in roll pattern coming down the runway. You know, ain't you got any co-pilot? Ain't you got any cameras on that big jet airliner, as Steve Miller saying, that's focused on the motors? If it, you know, I heard some professionals saying, well, the nose of this plane is so far ahead of the wings. I don't know if these guys would have been able to see if there was a motor missing. Well, don't you know anything about cameras that you install so you can make sure you can see what your motors are doing? You know, we're rolling 180, 200 miles an hour in a tin can, weight of tons and tons of steel. You ever think to look out and say, you know, we just lost the motor? What do you mean? It burned out? No, it's gone. It just fell off the plane. Well, we're committed. We got to pump her. Give me more throttle on the left or on the right. You know, are you nuts? You're nuts. I can't deal with your countries that are just idiots. I can't deal with it. Give me my money. That's all I can say. And everything will go back to normal.
Further, which areas we were going to be focusing on as we move into further days of the investigation. Now, let me tell you a little bit about our process at the NTSB. What we will do is analyze the facts, determine the probable cause of this accident, and then issue a report on those recommendations. Now, the investigator in charge of this is with me here. It's Chi-Hoon Shin, who has been with the NTSB for 13 years. He is one of our more senior investigators, and in fact was leading one of the groups during the DCA crash. He has a number of other individuals with them. We have approximately 28 from our headquarters and other locations that are either on the ground or will be here before the end of the day. They're also being supported by dozens of individuals at our headquarters in Washington, D.C. and other field offices. As part of this investigation, we will be forming specific groups. And when we form a group, it will be a focus area led by an NTSB individual, along with subject matter experts that are in that field that can provide expertise to help analyze the evidence. Our current groups that are being formed are operations. They will review the history of the accident flight and the crew members' duties for as many days before the crash that appear relevant. Our structures group will document the airframe wreckage, the accident scene, including the calculation of the impact angles to help determine the plane's pre-impact course and altitude. We also have a power plants group. They will work on the examination of the engines and engine accessories. We have a systems group. They will study the components of the plane's hydraulic, electrical, pneumatic, and associated systems, together with the instruments and elements of the flight control system.
Democrats caused the Schumer shutdown, closing the government to score political points. Schumer's fighting for illegal immigrants' benefits.
Now, outside of that group, we have also brought in, and another group that we'll have will be maintenance, which will obviously be looking at maintenance records, any work that's been done on this plane for as long as back as needed. We are also bringing in specialists in air traffic control, human performance, aircraft performance, recorders,
yeah, we want to hear the
government
tapes
relations,
of air
media
traffic
relations.
control.
And in addition to our investigators, we have brought 5 of our transportation disaster assistance team. They will be dealing with the survivors, the families, and others under what we call a federally legislated accident from the 1996 Family Assistance Act. Now, tonight we will be holding an organizational meeting and establishing parties to our investigation. Because we're very new into it, we will not be announcing the parties at this moment, but they will obviously be manufacturers of the aircraft, operators of the aircraft, unions representing some of the members. We'll have more details for on that probably tomorrow during a briefing.
Oh, hell, unions.
Now, the
coming
NTSB
in.
offers this party status to those companies, government agencies, and associations that have employees or activities or equipment involved in the accident. And we offer this because they have subject matter expertise and technical expertise and relevant information to help support the development of the best possible report. Now, once a party joins an NTSB investigation, they are not permitted to release documents or talk publicly about the investigation without the consent of the NTSB. Now, you can rest assured right now, all of the parties or potential parties are complying with that requirement, and they're cooperating fully with the NTSB investigators. Again, it will be only the NTSB
No,
that
don't
will release
forget, we're also
information
going to
regarding
check
this
into
accident going
Terrorist
forward.
Act.
Tomorrow will be
Right?
our
We
first
don't know.
full day on scene.
We don't know if somebody
Our investigative
deliberately
teams, we anticipate, will
monkeyed
be
with the
here
motor,
at least a week,
maybe
if not longer.
deliberately loosened up the
Our mission, again, is
engine
not to
mount.
understand not only what happened, but why it happened.
We're not sure.
And
This
recommend changes
could
to
be an
prevent
act
it
of
from happening
terrorism,
again.
and we should look at it, maybe possibly.
We will not be determining the probable cause while we are here on scene, nor will we speculate about what may have caused this. Now, since we're just beginning with the investigation, we don't have more factual information to give you at this time, but we believe over the next couple of days we'll be able to unveil a little bit further for you. I do want to also mention this just happened in the last basically 30 minutes. We have identified the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder. This is what is commonly referred to as a black box. We have investigators now that have located it. As you can imagine, it is it's suffered some heat, not intrusion, but heat around it. These recorders are built for that. And just before we get the question, these recorders were updated from its original manufacturer. They are L3 Harris, installed at 2 different dates. We're going back and verifying
My
that.
question is,
But we feel comfortable once
when
we
did
get
they
these to our
find
lab
out
in DC
how far
that we will
before
be able to get a good readout
they were
of the applicable
100%
data, and that will be yet another
committed to
point of
taking off?
information that will really help us understand what happened
Did
during this
they
point of
even know
flight.
they lost it? Were they communicating
So I
with
would
the
ask,
tower?
though, if you
The
have the
tower said,
opportunity
you're on fire, you lost
to
the
let the
motor,
public know,
swing
we know
back
there's a lot
around
of
and
debris
pick it
out
up.
there.
Did they even
It's in some
communicate?
yards,
I mean,
it's in
what's the
some
deal?
business locations. If you can have any debris or you see something that you think is from an aircraft, please contact us at the email address witness@ntsb.gov. Again, that email address is witness@ntsb.gov. Sometimes we get some very good information from items that are found, and with the debris field a half mile long, we're still making the determination of exactly where and what parts of the airplane and where they're at. Now, be happy to take a few questions. Again, we are limited in the information. When you do, please tell me who you're with and what your name is. Tom, you made the trip.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. My name is Johnny Kramer from Johnny Kramer YouTube, music, movie channel, and news. I'm one of the great reporters that they hired. My question is, sir, did the pilots know before VMARK that they lost an engine completely? Lost an engine. It was sitting back out on the roll pattern before they took off. Was there any communication between tower and the jet? And my condolences to the family, if you can answer that, sir. Thank you very much.
Can you talk about a photo that we've seen and video as well of what appears to be an engine sitting on the side of a road or on the road? Is that, in fact, do you believe that's the #1 left side engine? And separately, you talked about the black boxes that you've identified them, and they should be able to withstand heat, but can you describe what they look like and what, if any, marks, sear marks, black marks there are on those black boxes?
Okay, the first question was basically the engine that's been seen in some photographs. We do believe that that is the engine from the left side of the plane. It is actually on the airfield, so it's not off the airport property. That correlates with the video that we've seen of it detaching from the airplane while it is in flight. We also know that a fire was occurring during that time, and so we're analyzing that. In fact, we have teams right now that are preparing to do the runway in what we call a FOD walk. That is foreign object debris. Obviously, the runways have been shut down, but we need to not only take drone coverage, video coverage of where every piece of this evidence is, but then we need to recover it and tag it, and those will give us even more pieces of information. So right now, it's still on the field. We're making arrangements for that evidence to be recovered and stored in a secure location. And once we are able to analyze it, we may need to ship it off for specialists for things like that. But we do feel comfortable that we're going to get a lot of good information from it. What was your second part?
Jeff, can you describe the physical condition, what you saw, how those black boxes actually look?
The physical condition of the black boxes. I've only seen one picture. You could easily tell that it was a black box, two types of cylinders on top. Our specialists said they were able to easily identify that. We don't know until it gets to Washington, D.C. I will tell you that they're manufactured to a very specific standard. Luckily, they were not in a post-impact fire for multiple days or on the bottom of the ocean. So while the fire may have been intense, it is built to withstand that. And once we get them to D.C. and we can open them up and take these steps, and sometimes we have to take multiple steps. Now, it will be multiple, or at least several days before we have a readout of those, because as we take them apart, we need to let some of our groups go through and do what's called audition them. And then they'll come up with a potential or partial transcript, looking for identifying markers that we need to delve into further while we're on the ground. So, and as always, we will never be releasing the actual audio of any of those conversations out of respect for those who are involved in the aircraft. Yes, sir.
As a do-it-yourselfer, you're ready to take.
Well, there you go, folks. There it is. What do I think as citizens? Well, we take it to Congress and Senate and tell them this is no longer acceptable. And if you build an airport, you need double the space for these planes to shut down in emergency. Now, if he had enough runway, would he have aborted? I would like to think he would have aborted the flight and shut everything down and came to a rolling stop if he had enough runway. Without enough runway, you're obligated. That's what they're training the pilots, and that's what they're training possibly air traffic controller to tell them you're in V pattern. You're past the mark. You're fully committed. You're rolling 180 miles an hour down the runway. You're going to have to get that bad boy off the ground, or you're going to crash at the end of the runway. And it's just unacceptable. It's common sense. Einstein told you people about this a long time ago. Da Vinci, everybody, that you need double the space. It's the same thing in a car, right? When you're traveling 55 miles an hour, they want you to be a certain foot away from the vehicle in case of emergency. You have enough room to stop. So, and when you got metal, and a plane is a lot heavier than a car or a truck, even a semi, even a battleship, probably. Well, maybe not a battleship. You need room to shut it down in case of an emergency. If you can't do that, then you don't build an airport. And anyone that doesn't make changes will pass it a law. They're going to have to extend. I don't care if you got to buy up the neighborhood, whatever. You're going to have crashes. You're going to have more. We've been having a lot, but plane crashes are normal. They've happened since the day they made them. They just don't cover most of them. They cover main ones, some of them, but they don't really cover all the airplane crashes, folks. You don't really hear about it. You do, but later on, after it's happened a while, because there's so many planes that are flying in the sky, you would crap your pants if you really knew how congested America is with commercial jets and freighter jets and helicopters and everything like that. You're bound to have their system is way outdated. Flight control system and radar and everything, it's outdated, and there's just planes everywhere, and nothing is 100% guaranteed. Nothing. We're not God. We're not 100% perfect. We're humans, and we are going to make mistakes. All we could do is try and make it as safe as we can. But this is common sense. If they would have had another runway longer, the same length as they rolled down to take off, there's a good chance that this might not have happened. They would have shut it down. I can't believe they even tried. They were rolling down the runway on fire before they even took off, before the plane even left the ground. And they were committed to it. So just bound for problems. I don't know. And this is just my opinion, right? It's only my opinion. It's not anybody else's opinion. It's mine. This was human error and mechanical error. Mechanical because things broke. Human because it wasn't maintained right. And human call to commit 100% into getting that bad boy off of the ground. So human and mechanical is what I'm calling it. I'm no professional, but that's what I see. Now, does anyone else want to see any more footage of this? Or are you done with me talking like I know what's going on? So they are confirming that was the motor on the runway that fell off after they took off. After the plane was in the air, the motor falls off. But there is proof and evidence that they were on fire before they even took off. And that's because one of the workers at the airport, they have on camera even saying, it don't look like he's going to take off. He's on fire or something. That something ain't right. And the plane blows by him. And just boom. He's talking about something about the plane. It don't look like he's going to be able to take off or something. But yet he got it off of the ground. Clipped the building. And
NTSB is providing about that UPS plane crash in Louisville, Kentucky. Take a look at this video. The cargo plane crashing and turning into a fireball. It happened just as the plane was taking off. 9 people now confirmed dead, but officials are still combing through the wreckage looking for remains. NTSB is now sharing those details about the investigation. And Scripps News investigative reporter Patrick Terpstra joins us live. And Patrick, they're starting to fill in the sequence of events that led up to this disaster.
Absolutely, and we just had a briefing from the NTSB a few minutes ago where they're really filling in a lot of blanks. You know, there was some question about whether the plane actually lifted off at any point, and now investigators are saying that indeed it did get airborne as it was hurtling down the runway, and it was able to actually clear a fence at the end of the runway before it then crashed into a number of structures and buildings. And that huge fireball, the NTSB says, was about half a mile wide. Wow. Another piece of information the NTSB shared is that right before that fire occurred, the left engine actually separated from the aircraft. You'll recall, as that plane was rolling down the runway, the left side of that wing was on fire, but it wasn't actually always attached to the engine. So a big question for investigators will be what exactly led to that engine coming off from that plane. You can imagine once that happened, it was extremely difficult, of course, for the crew to regain control of the aircraft. But the NTSB laying out a huge investigation ahead, 28 people involved in that investigation. A question came up. Government is shut down. What is the impact of that? NTSB saying they do not expect any result because of the shutdown, that they are really working very hard to try to figure out what happened. And there was a breakthrough just about half an hour ago. Todd Inman, an NTSB member, saying that they found those crucial black boxes.
We have identified the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder. This is what is commonly referred to as the black box. We have investigators now that have located it. As you can imagine, it is it's suffered some heat, not intrusion, but heat around it. These recorders are built for that. We feel comfortable once we get these to our lab in DC that we will be able to get a good readout of the applicable data, and that will be yet another point of information that will really help us understand what happened.
He said the first order of business today is to actually walk the entire length of the runway, to have a team do that. It's called a FOD walk, foreign object debris, to try to find, is there any other piece of evidence out there that could be tiny, that could be critical to solving the mystery about what happened here. Also, they will then go through all kinds of maintenance records and logs for this airplane. Our records from the FAA showing that this airplane was built in 1991, so you can imagine just how many records are involved. They want to find out all of the maintenance that went into this plane over the years. They did say there was a question about whether there had been any recent maintenance as far as this plane goes. Did anything occur yesterday? NTSB saying it did not appear that there had been any last maintenance to this plane, but it could take Dell up to a year to really figure out exactly what happened.
Patrick, we are also trying to understand the fireball itself. Why was this explosion so large?
And the NTSB saying there were actually a series of explosions. Of course, you had all the fuel on board the airplane, talking about tens of thousands of gallons of fuel, but also where this crashed. This was an area of industrial sites, and so once it crashed, the fire itself actually then ignited several other smaller explosions. At this hour, we know that 9 people are dead, and as many as 16 others, 16 total, might be dead at the end of this because there is just so much debris, and the search for the dead continues.
The FOD, they search for the debris.
All right, there you go, folks. Search through the debris. You know, we're just all upset about it. There's been a lot of plane crashes. Everybody's worried. It's time to use common sense. It's time to make changes to the airports, and these guys need to be able to abort a mission, a flight, whatever it is. You got to give them enough room to shut down and not take off, especially with humans on board. That's just my opinion. Once you get past a certain point, you are committed to take off and pass 120 knots. You're committed. Yeah, well, that's what they say. That's what they're teaching them. But I say that's a bunch of crap. That's a lie. They don't. Bottom line is they don't really care. This has been brought up to numerous people before, and we would have to buy a neighborhood out. We would have to, add on to the runway. That costs money. It's just too much. We'll take the chance, and that's pretty much what they said. We'll take the chance with it. If you look at a lot of countries now, they are not building their airports around any subdivision anywhere that there is society. It's outside of society, which is a good idea. And for you future people building runways, take this into consideration. Give them double room to slow down, to abort. You'll save a lot of lives, and you would have saved a lot of money in a plane. Them planes ain't cheap. All you would have had to do was replace the motor and some metal work, and it would have been up, back, and flying again. But now you're out everything and human life. So, yeah, I know. I've been telling you that, Debbie. It's much momentum. Well, if they would have shut down the power and hit the brakes and reverse the turbines, they would have crashed. Yeah, they would have ran off the end of the runway, but we wouldn't be seeing what we're seeing now. Probably. So they don't know. I'm dealing with a bunch of idiots. That's all. Yeah. That's basically what we're dealing with. They just refuse to listen. No matter who dies, how many people die, they refuse to listen. They know it all. I don't know it all. God does. I might even be wrong. But if I was in the airport business and building an airport and my name was on the airport and on the side of the planes and everything and people in my hands, I would have built an extra long runway just for a 300-mile-an-hour shutdown for them to have enough room. And that's all I can do. But I don't run the show. So my condolences to the people. You're going to have to lower flight plans, flight, tickets, and everything. It's just too risky. It's too risky. You take your life in hand. I know a lot of people have flown and nothing bad has happened to them. Thank God for them. Some people are blessed and don't have any accidents. I flew 2 times, and I know my luck. That was good enough. And I haven't flown since. And if I can't get there by car, I'm at the age where if I can't get there by car, do I really need to be there? Not unless America's over with and it's gonna shrumble to nothing. Then I guess I'll have to fly somewhere, drive. We need to get built. Did you see what Tokyo or Japan or whatever did? Built a dang highway connecting to London or something like that, or some other country. Phenomenal. Phenomenal. We're just way behind, guys. America's way behind. Sorry. I think we reached our peak of an industrial back in the 50s and the 30s and 50s and 60s, 70s, and then it dropped off. It dropped off. We don't spend a lot in roads, bridges, extravaganza things like Japan or China or any of these other countries, We don't have enough traffic control now. They're getting paid. No, they're just, I had 2 uncles that were traffic controllers. They've been retired for 20 some years. They both got walleye eye and PDSDT or whatever they call it. They were air traffic controllers. That's what they did. And they did it for so long. They were only allowed to do it for so long, and then they had to retire. It was law. They had to retire. Yeah. And it drove them crazy. Walleye eyes. That's from sitting there looking at all these bleeps on a radar. You might be in charge of like 20 planes at once flying around. You gotta make sure all them planes are not colliding with each other and at the right altitude and everything. It was crazy. It was crazy. Thank God they retired when they did. You aren't stopping that as past in a threshold. It was MD-11C. I thought it was a 10C. But you might be right. 3 motors on it. Debbie, that's what it was. I had 3 motors, 2 wing motors, and 1 on the tail. And a lot of these guys are correct. That plane should have been able to fly with just 2 motors. That is correct. That plane should be able to fly with both wing motors, the motors that were connected to the wings. Yes, that plane should have flown if the tail motor was the one that started on fire and blew out. Without a wing motor, good luck. Now, you've been listening to Johnny Kramer Music Movie Channel and reporting, and you name it, I'm an idiot, have paperwork to prove it. I want all you folks to have a great, and I want to thank a great Ma, Debbie Fox, showing up today. What a great lady. Let's see what she said. No, I said yes. That's what I said. And I said yes, woman. Now, over 200 miles an hour. Yeah. Well, this all could have been prevented if they would have listened a long time ago, but I'm an idiot. So. Now, I just looked it up. Well, I looked it up too. Do you want to have a debate about this? Did the great Governor Ernest Mack Shell cover this accident yet, Deborah? Look at the skies out there, Deb. We got a little bit of a pinkish color out there in the clouds. Then again, that could be the jet fuel from Kentucky. I guess they said that smoke made it here. It smelled like jet fuel all day outside. I could taste it. Smelled like jet fuel, eyes burning and everything. Hunka burning love. All right, Miss Fox, is there anything else you want to talk about? Real fast. What a beautiful nighttime sky. We got the blues in there. We got the pinks. I guess not. I think she's gone silent. I think the cat got her tongue. Debbie Fox said, no, it's not his job description. He's governor of Kentucky, future governor of Kentucky. Ernest Mack Shell. I'd like to see what he's going to tell his state about this. All right. You folks have a great night. God bless everybody. I got more chores to do. My whole life is a chore. Have a good day. Debbie, can you see that sky outside? I forgot you're blind as a bat. All right, you have a good day, little Debs. Thanks for stopping in. Valdez, thanks for stopping in. All the rest of you, thanks for stopping in. And I'll talk to you later.